Hi, my name is Mary Wong, and welcome to my live post number 47. I am a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist in downtown Toronto, and founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic and author of the book Pathways to Pregnancy. Oops, can you see it? There it is. Okay. And tonight, I'm really pleased to introduce to you Dana, who you see here on the split screen with me. And it is my second time doing a split screen, so thank you. And bear with me. Dana came to me a couple of years back during her second pregnancy. But what is really interesting about Dana's story is that she had a stillbirth prior to her second pregnancy. And so I would like to basically put it to you to tell your story. And so thank you so much in advance for sharing this heartfelt story with us. And I know that you're going to impact a lot of people in a very positive way. And anyone that wants to reach out and ask questions, please, you can do so, and we'll respond back to you either directly or privately, however you'd like it. Okay. So very first off, oftentimes we talk about fertility issues on this live post, but so it's not an infertility story. However, there's a lot of grief, and we want to address this because anyone going through fertility will identify with this anyway. But I God forbid anybody goes through stillbirth, and certainly you did, and you have a story to tell and a great story with a beautiful outcome. And so I know for you, conception was easy.
Yes.
And what age were you when you tried and conceived?
For the first time, 29 years old.
Okay. So when was it that you found out or felt that something was wrong with your pregnancy?
So it depends how you look at that. As we had discussed previously, I had some anxieties and concerns about my pregnancy with
You're cutting through.
Rupert. I'd had a couple of dreams that something was wrong with him, and some just general anxiety that I didn't know how to address. But if you look at it from a medical standpoint or obstetrical standpoint, there were no issues at any point. Any tests that I had, there were no issues. But so a few days before I found out that he died, he wasn't moving like he normally did. So I went and got that checked out by my midwife, and everything seemed fine until a few days later when I had a regular appointment.
Just to clarify, so you were carrying a boy, and his name was Rupert.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So at about just before 38 weeks, one morning I woke up and he wasn't moving. So I went and I called my on-call midwife, and I went and got that checked out. And she asked me to do kick counts that evening, and everything seemed okay, but I was a bit of a mess. I thought something was wrong. But by all the things that we checked out, things seemed fine until a few days later when I had my a regular scheduled appointment, and they couldn't find a heartbeat, which was confirmed by ultrasound that he had died a few days prior. So probably around the time that I was feeling less or no movement is probably when he died. So that's when we knew something was wrong. We didn't actually know anything was wrong prior to that. But like I said, I had a couple of dreams. Like the night before I found out that he had died, I had a dream that I was present for a manatee or sea cow having a stillborn baby. And earlier in my pregnancy, I had one dream that I could see through my womb, and Rupert had like really messed up teeth that what signified when I woke up, it signified that he wasn't okay. But we did have an autopsy after he was born, and they didn't find that there was anything physically wrong with him. So there was just obviously something went wrong. What they thought might have happened is that I had a massive bleed. I don't exactly know where that happened, but a lot of his blood bled into me, I guess through the umbilical cord and the placenta. But with him, I guess there was nothing that they could see that was wrong. So I'm not exactly sure what happened. It was explained to me after that it was kind of a 1 in a million type situation for that. But yeah.
So did it cause fear in having or trying to have a second child?
Yes, in a way. More so, it's just the reality. So my background professionally, I was a registered nurse. So I think when this happened, somehow I felt almost embarrassed that I didn't know that this could happen. It's like I guess I said to somebody, I thought that stillbirths stopped happening in the 50s. I didn't know that people at 9 months pregnancy, full term, just ready, waiting to go into labor, their baby could die without knowing that anything's wrong, without there being anything seen as being wrong. So I felt kind of taken aback by that. So, yeah, I had some fears in a subsequent pregnancy, but more so it was just the awareness that, your baby can die. It's a possibility at any stage of life, someone can die. But I don't see that really as a bad thing. I know that might sound weird.
I don't know what's going on, but hopefully everything is okay. So just to reiterate, you were just saying that there is fear in that a child or a baby or, in utero, a baby can die anytime. But I don't want to leave our viewers with the place of, oh my goodness, it can happen anytime, and then just go through their pregnancy in fear the whole time, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you did. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I did. What did you say?
I was going to say that, you did go on to conceive.
Yeah.
And you did so tell us about what you did yourself in trying to cope with this. I know you came to me at 4 months pregnant with your second. Mm-hmm. And partly because you came from Alberta.
Yes.
Was it Alberta? Okay. So out of province for the Canadians watching. So, that's obviously one way you dealt with it. What else did you do?
Yeah. So like I was saying before, I don't see that realization that a baby can die as a bad thing. What it gave for me was a greater appreciation for any time that I had with Rupert, who died, or the baby that I conceived after, Winslow. An appreciation of any moment I had with that baby, whether he was going to be born and live for 99 years, or whether he was just going to be with me for a few months. So that's kind of was my greatest coping mechanism, is being present in that pregnancy and appreciating all the time that I had with him. So that was,
this is a really excellent point, because what you are exemplifying to me is that instead of being sucked into our fears and worries, you were really living in the present and living moment to moment and in appreciation. And I think, stillbirth or no stillbirth, I think in life, we need to have more of that, right? I mean, we're all facing adversity of one sort or another. So I think what you're saying is that no matter what we're facing, we really need to look at the present moment and appreciate what we have. Is that right?
Yeah, and there's a kind of a fun for me. It's kind of fun, a practice that I do in a situation where I'm experiencing fear or anxiety is what is the worst that could happen? So when I'm pregnant, what's the worst that could happen? This baby could die. Well, I've experienced that already, and I know I can, get through that. So in any life situation, what's the worst that could happen? Well, in my mind, maybe X, Y, Z, but okay, so I can probably get through that in some way and eventually. So I don't know. It can be anything from little situations to big situations or big adversities. I feel like I read a friend of mine send me a blog post about a woman who had experienced stillbirth, and she said, I feel like I have almost a superpower in that.
Say, repeat again because you're cutting out again. I'm not sure why.
It's probably my Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's.
That's okay. So just that just quickly recap in seconds.
Oh, I was just saying that a friend of mine sent me a blog post, and this author who had experienced stillbirth said that she feels like she almost has a superpower and that she's faced a huge challenge and is able to get through it. So many of life's challenges don't seem as challenging, or it helps her know that she can get through it because she has gotten through something that was extremely challenging. So I feel I could relate to that a lot because I feel that way. Not that I have a superpower, but that I can probably get through a lot.
Well, I think in looking at how you are, I think many will view you as a superwoman anyway. Absolutely, because we are women. So thank you so much for sharing this because I think it's very important, and I think that's the best attitude, and it is healing for one. And I know that perhaps, you're saying it coming from a place of I've already gone through it and I did live through it. And so I can go on. But, what do you tell someone who's going through it in this moment, going through the grief as we speak? Like, what do you say to that person?
It's so hard to, like, I can try to put myself back in that position, but now it's approaching 4 years. It's such a different space that you're in when you're experiencing that grief. But what I would say is when you're in it, for me, it was when I was experiencing all that pain, it was an okay place to be in because I needed to experience that pain. So if you're experiencing that in the moment, I feel like go with it. That worked for me. I needed to be in it. I finally got to a certain point that I was ready to stop feeling some of that pain all the time.
Right.
So
how long were you in that pain? How long were you in that?
It kind of ebbs and flows, but probably, let's see, I conceived my son Winslow about 8 or 9 months after, and it was very shortly before I conceived him that I reached a point of greater peace about it. So maybe 8 or 9 months, and I still would experience moments of deep pain, but it was probably 8 or 9 months that I had 7 or so that I had very intense pain.
So I'm just gonna be upfront and really acknowledge for who you are as a human being, because I'll tell you, I've as a practitioner, I deal with women who have gone through stillbirth, and you are incredible because the pain that I see that women go through, and the deep pain that people go through, it's very difficult to get out of that. And you got yourself out of it very quickly. And most women that I see are in it 2 years easily, Yeah. Or they may snap out of it. So
I did.
Wow.
I luckily I had, so when I was pregnant with Rupert, I was going through hypnobirthing as a birthing technique, and my hypnobirthing practitioner, she shared with me after Rupert died that her firstborn child died shortly after birth. so I felt like there was a certain connection there, but maybe about 4 months or so after he was born and died, she said to me, she said, I feel like you're stuck, Dana. I think maybe you should consider going for help or counseling. And for some reason, I heard her. Like lots of people can give you advice or say things too, but I heard her and I did. I went for some counseling with a technique called EMDR that's for people that have experienced various traumas. And I went through that. And not just, it wasn't just about Rupert, because for some reason when he was born and died, it trudged up all kinds of past pain from my childhood that I thought I had dealt with. And for some
Right.
reason, his death brought that up. So it kind of forced me to cutting out.
Oh, you're cutting out again. Hello?
I,
Okay, you're back.
okay.
Okay,
I
so,
was, I,
oh, say something again.
hello.
Oh,
Is it working now?
it's back to working. Okay. I haven't cut out at all, have I?
Off and on, yeah, a little bit.
Okay, well, I hope everybody gets it. And if you don't, you
Yeah,
can
sure.
contact me. And now that Dana has really revealed herself, you could even reach out to her. Right? We'll see. We'll see. Or
I
through
don't,
me.
I don't check my Facebook that often, so it's not the best avenue to connect with me always.
Me. And then
Yes,
if anybody needs that kind of direct communication, then if you're okay with it, perhaps they can reach out to you. Does that work?
sure, sure.
That's super. But yeah, so then from that, like, so I've seen some people they'll actually have some kind of a closure, like a ceremony. I mean, did you do anything like that for yourself? You had a funeral?
We didn't call it a funeral. About 4 months after he was born, we had what we called a dedication of our love. And it was my husband and I made a video of his life with us. So my pregnancy and our while he was alive, our journey, and then kind of our story. And we had my sister-in-law, she sang, we had a couple people read some poems, and then we had a big dinner after, and it was just a bunch of people in a hall, and we just came together. It was kind of amazing the amount of love that I felt after this experience. So I wouldn't call that closure, but it was a recognition of his life and a dedication of all the love that we had for him, or that we have for him. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, well, that's great. Any last piece of advice that you want to give um, the viewers watching this at the present moment?
The word advice is a tricky thing because it's a very unique journey for everybody. There are common threads that lots of people can relate to, but advice, I feel hesitant to give advice, but I can say something that kind of worked for me. And that would be kind of finding a perspective that worked for me when it came to looking at, I guess, other children and other people. Is I stopped thinking that he should be alive and that his death was a tragedy. So when I see other children that were the age that he would be had he been born alive, I don't think he should have been doing this, or he would be turning 4 this fall. I don't think we should be celebrating his 4th birthday. I don't, for me, it didn't work to think that way because there is a disconnect. If I'm always thinking that what is happening is what shouldn't be happening,
Yeah.
then there's a lot of pain with that. So I've worked on just accepting that what happened is what happened, and that's what was supposed to happen because it happened. So I guess that when I was in the thick of the pain, that wouldn't have worked for me, but I came to that later on, and that has helped me.
How much later? Like, are we talking?
Probably at that 9 month mark, and it's been an ongoing journey, and it still is
Of
now.
course,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And also
Well,
learning how to have a relationship with that child that has died. For me, that was something that I had a really hard time with because I was expecting him to have a son in the traditional sense that you'd raise and interact with. So finding your own ways to connect with them, even though they're dead, whether you believe in the afterlife or spirits or whatever, whether it's lighting a candle or looking at old pictures. Sometimes I look at pictures of when I was pregnant with him or after he was born, we had some pictures. So it's a way that I can either go back into the pain and feel like I'm connecting with him or not necessarily experiencing the pain, but connecting with him in some way.
it's good. So I just want to do a little add in, again, very different from your case, but women that go through miscarriage and that does happen. I witness this on a daily routine and where, gee, my expected date of birth would have been this, but then I miscarried. So then they hold such meaning towards that specific date. And really, I think what you're saying is like, let's let it go and, not
Sounds
mean,
harsh.
no, yes. Okay. Thank you. I maybe we can verbalize it in a different way, but no, we acknowledge it. I mean, I actually went through two miscarriages, not a stillbirth, but certainly I'm of a different character, and I did not want to associate anything and in fact, for me, the coping mechanism was when I was pregnant last with my daughter. My viewpoint was, okay, I'll believe it when she is in my arms, right? So while I was pregnant, I was like, mm-hmm,
Totally. Yeah.
right? So it's like, I don't believe it, and it didn't seem that real for me unless I was physically holding her.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
had that.
sorry, I just couldn't go into a place of, oh, gee, with the losses that I had, like making meaning with the dates that what would have been. Like it didn't make sense to me. I didn't want to put my energy in those baskets, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to create the life in the present moment versus the past.
Yeah.
And it's a very different place. I mean, still, I believe, you had a child that you can physically, tangibly see, and you had him growing in your belly and full of life for 9 months. So, that's a different place. But
Yeah.
yet, you're able to do that so gracefully.
Thank you.
It's the truth. I cut you off, I think. You were in the midst of saying something, maybe, no?
I don't recall. Probably not important.
All right. Well, um, I think that's about it, right? I mean, you've got your
Sure.
story. You certainly have a beautiful little one now. So tell us about your baby, or not so much a baby anymore.
Yeah, he's just over 2 now, and he's a ton of fun.
And
And it
yeah, in the present, and that's what I hear with you. And again, in your belly as well, right? You received him without as much fear as I thought other people would.
tried to, yeah. I heard somebody once say that they try to make decisions. They had a child that died in different circumstances, but they said they try to make decisions using love instead of fear. And I tried my best to do that. Um, and I felt like that was a bit empowering because I could have taken the route of being a high risk pregnant woman and having a hospital birth, but I did. I saw a high risk neonatologist at the beginning of this pregnancy, and he did all kinds of different assessments, which is wonderful. And then with his blessing, he said, I think that this was a one in a million type thing. I don't see any reason that you can't have a home birth or be with a midwife. So I made the decision to, release any fears I had about not being highly monitored. And I had a home birth with a midwife. I had more frequent ultrasounds that made me feel a bit more comfortable as to whether they would have detected anything. I don't know, but for me, it was achieving a little bit of a different balance, and feeling empowered with my pregnancy with Winslow afterwards.
Well, that's amazing. So you ended up then with this birth going through a midwife at your home. Is that correct?
Yeah, in our apartment. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and again, like, I think a lot of people would choose and come from fear and go, oh, I have to be in the hospital, high risk and blah, 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 and stay in that mode. But
And at my final ultrasound, they saw something that they thought maybe he wasn't breathing in utero. They practiced breathing in utero, and the doctor there recommended that I get induced and have a hospital birth. And and that may have been a good decision. And I don't want to sway people away from medicalized or medical help, but for
yeah,
me, it didn't feel right. So yeah, I discussed it with my midwife, and they didn't see the same concerns, so we just proceeded. And I had my membranes ruptured to encourage birth to start sooner. But yeah, I went with having a home birth like I had planned, and it worked out for me. It could have gone the other direction. I don't know. you know.
well, I think it's a beautiful story because again, a lot of people wouldn't do that. And you were just letting go of your fear and just going with it. And the other thing I see is that you went with your intuition. So that's really great.
Yeah, and again, me and my dreams, I had a dream that I had a doctor that was insisting that I have a cesarean, and then I was saying no. So when this situation happened, I was like, wow, okay, I'm gonna follow what I felt in my dream. So
Great.
that's that time I followed my intuition.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then this is where I want to actually say to the viewers that sometimes it's intuition and sometimes it's fear. So in this case, it sounds like intuition, but there are times when we act on fear, and that's not necessarily a wise choice. And sometimes that is difficult to discern, right?
Yeah.
So if it feels right and it feels comfortable in your heart, then that I think is more intuition. Because fear produces anxiety. If you're making a decision out of like anxiety, fear, and worry, that's not intuition. So any input on that? Do you agree or any?
I'm still practicing that. Yeah. I, I I agree with what you said, but yeah, I still haven't honed that skill perfectly yet.
I don't think any one of us has that perfectly down pat.
Yeah.
So that's life too. It's a practice, right? Anyway, let's end this broadcast because I think that the viewers can just contact me, and like if they want to know more, you can do so and contact you directly, privately. So next Wednesday, I'm going to have another guest, and her name is Ray Dolman, and she's actually a sexologist. So please tune in because what happens when it comes to fertility and trying to conceive. A lot of times it can become more mechanical, and people lose that spark. And next week it's about reigniting that fire and really talking about intimacy. And intimacy, it's not just about simultaneous orgasms, because really in reality, how often does that happen? Hardly ever. But there are ways that we can increase intimacy without penetration even, and we'll discuss that and other techniques and tools and concerns that you may have. You can actually email me, go to marywong.life and my website, and just send me a message and tell me what you want to hear, and we'll certainly try to cover that. But it'll be awesome. Actually, Ray is also, there's a little piece of her in my book. I better do this again so that people can see. And Pathways to Pregnancy, there's a little piece in the male fertility section, because it does take two to tango. It's not just about focusing on the woman, right? So this is something great for everyone, whether trying to conceive or not. Really, it's about in relationships. So please tune in. And as some of you might have noticed, we started tonight at 9 p.m. rather than 8 p.m. There was some logistical issue. It's actually a babysitting issue. So this might be the same case for next Wednesday. So I'm going to see and let you know in advance if it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Okay, so thank you, Dana, really, from the bottom of my heart for contributing to this post and like having yourself be heard. And I hope that you enjoyed this interview. It was fun for me. I hope it was okay for you.
Painless. It was fun. Thank you, Mary, for asking me to chat with you.
Well, really, thank you so much for speaking the truth. And I think more of us need to come out and speak our truths because we're really not alone in this. While we're going through the journey, it totally feels like you're the only one going through it, right?
It does. Isn't that weird how we do that to ourselves or how, yeah. But there are many people experiencing very similar things to us at any given time.
Mm-hmm. So that's why, one of the goals here in doing these posts is every so often having live guests to tell a story. You're not in my book, but, there's 15 stories of hope in my book, including my own. But there's so many stories to tell. So I'm really glad that you're telling your story. And I'm so proud of women coming out and sharing this because it's about time. I mean, there's no shame in this. And unfortunately, it's still a taboo topic. Like there are more people coming out, but yet it's still taboo and it's still private. Every single day, every woman I speak to is like, I feel so alone. And you're not too when you go to the fertility clinics and there's like 100 women sitting there with their heads down, right? Not contacting anyone else. It's very sad. So let's break free from that. Thank you.
I agree.
Okay. Have a great night and we'll see y'all next Wednesday. Okay. Take care. Bye. So check out more posts on the Facebook page. Check out my marywong.life. You can buy my book on Amazon or Indigo Chapters or Barnes & Noble, Shoppers Drug Mart, other bookstores near you. Okay, take care. Have a good night.
Good night.